Okay, so now the next person we have for you is Annie Dixon. So I'd like to ask Annie to come up to the front of the room. Now, Annie has been involved with the Tourette's Association longer than myself, I think probably 16 years now. And she is the current National Support Group Coordinator. She's done many things over the years. I'll give you the mic. You've got to put it up really close. I just want to check with, for the live streaming at the back of the room. Sorry. Have they got sound? Thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name's Annie, as Robin has already told you, and I'm the National Support Group Coordinator of Australia. I've done a number of volunteering roles in the past, but I've been doing this last one for the last 4 years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Before I actually talk about support, I just wanted to say to anybody here who has Tourette's, who struggles to advocate for themselves if they're on a public transport or something, we do have like these business cards that you can buy from our resource table. If we don't have enough, you can order them online. And also we have not just the business cards that give the information, but if you have severe Tourette's and you're in a situation, for example, where the police are called, you can buy the cards with a number on them that's linked back to our office so that the police can call the office and get the information and verify that what you have is Tourette's and that your behaviour is not of your own making. So, yes, I became a member of TSAA when my son was diagnosed at the age of 8, and he at that time really struggled through school, all 5 of them. He was asked to move on a few times. He is now 23 and he has full-time employment working with people one-on-one with disabilities. He's just finished his nursing degree. He's had a girlfriend for 7 years, since he was 15, and he lives independently. And I only tell you this so you can understand that people do and can and will live happy and fulfilling lives. So I hope that gives you some comfort, because I could not have seen that when he was 8. Okay. So TSAA was set up 30 years ago with 2 aims. One was to educate and provide information to the general community to make lives better for people with Tourette's, so there was some empathy and understanding. And the second reason was to provide support for families who are managing Tourette's. So what kind of support do we provide? First of all, usually the initial contact that people make when they're seeking support is through our phone volunteers. We also have Facebook, which is a closed group discussion online, and obviously for people who aren't close to a support group, this is absolutely invaluable because they're able to raise their concerns and issues with others across the country. It's a closed group, so it's not open to the public. We have support mentors. They provide one-on-one support on an occasional basis. And then we have support groups. The leaders organise meetings with other families and try to get people to meet other people with Tourette's. And they also provide the ongoing support. So whereas the mentors, it's just a one-off, if you want to carry on having support, you go through a support group. Well, I've pretty much said the role of support mentors, but I think also not everybody when they're diagnosed is ready to meet a whole lot of people with Tourette's. Some people, everyone is different. And so you might just want to talk to one individual, somebody to listen and assist you. And also if there isn't a support group near you, you can obviously phone a support mentor. They're usually people who have been support group leaders and for whatever reason their lives have got busier, they've taken on full-time employment, they can't commit as much time, but they still want to help in some way. So the role of support groups. To ensure those with TS and their carers feel they are valued members of society and in maintaining their self-confidence. That's the first one. And the second one is to break down isolation by putting people with TS in touch with one another. And as Kayla mentioned, you know, it can be, when you're first diagnosed, you feel all alone. And that's pretty tough until you meet other people. Is there anyone here who hasn't met, who has Tourette's, who for them this is the first day that they've met anyone else with TS? No? Okay. At the time of a diagnosis, it's often that people don't have very much knowledge, and without knowledge it can be quite fearful to know what's going to happen in the future. And yeah, it can be pretty tough, as I think you've already gathered from listening to Kayla. However, when you meet people, or people with Tourette's meet other people with Tourette's, they relax. They can be themselves. They can tick without having to suppress. They know they're not going to be judged because they don't have to explain themselves. They're less self-conscious, and they definitely realise they're not alone. And that they can fit in, you know, they're not trying to be someone else, they can just be who they are. And as a result of all those things, people gain self-confidence. But also carers really benefit from meeting other carers. They can talk to people who just get it. Often, as a parent, when you're trying to explain it to a parent of somebody who doesn't have TS, they sort of think you're making it all up. Again, it's breaking down that isolation. You're not the only person who's dealing with Tourette's, trying to manage it. They gain a lot of personal experience, and by swapping stories about your own situation, you increase your own knowledge, and with knowledge comes that ability to feel that you can cope with what might be around the corner. They're inspired by other people's stories. I'm sure everyone is very inspired by Kayla. You know, people listen and they learn. Social meetings give carers a bit of a break from what can be a pretty tough run, and it just fosters relationships. And most importantly, it just empowers you to take on whatever challenge might be around the corner. Okay, so where do you find support groups? We have support groups as of last year in every state and territory, something that I think we're quite proud of. However, WA is not so well supported. I'd like to, at this point, ask, where is Lydia? Lydia's here. Lydia Roberts is our wonderful support group leader for Perth, but the weight of WA is on her shoulders. And we would love to see some more people put their hand up to help. In fact, I would love to see 2 support groups in Perth, one for the north and one for the south, and also in the regional towns. You know, with the prevalence of people with Tourette's being 1 in 100, there must be an awful lot of people out there who aren't accessing support. So it would be lovely to see a lot more groups in WA. I would love everybody who feels that they would like to set up a support group to talk to Lydia about her experience. She's arranged some fantastically fun activities for families, so you can always learn a lot more from Lydia. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was obviously WA is a little bit different because of the size of the state. I was thinking that if there were people who wanted to organise support in remote regions, you could try, if people had internet, access to internet, you could do some Skype group calls, because it's that one-on-one seeing people that makes the difference, that you build up the relationships. The closer you are to a support group, the less distance you have to travel, the more committed you are, the stronger the relationships, the better the group runs. So if you can see people, even if it's online, that's better than just the words and the typing and the emails. That's better than nothing, but seeing people is great. So what do support group leaders do? They provide the one-on-one support initially by phone and email, but they organise the meetings and the social activities. This can be as simple as just going to a cafe and having a cup of coffee, picnics, barbecues in the park, bike rides, or more active activities like I don't know, if you love cycling, you might organise a bike ride or something like that, going ice skating, whatever support group leaders enjoy doing, they put it out there to do with others. Other involvement can be fundraising or doing some raising awareness through media, and of course running state camps. We would love somebody to put their hand up to do that, because WA is currently the only state that doesn't have a camp, and it would be so good to get that up and running. What you have to do to become a support group leader, you do need to be over 18, and we have a few formalities. You need to be a fully paid up member, which is a bit obvious, because if you're going to represent the association, you need to belong to it. You need a working with children police check, and to sign a very brief contract that basically enables us to give out your contact details both in our quarterly newsletter and to people making inquiries. You obviously have to have access to email and mobile. You don't have to have access to Facebook, but I think that is quite helpful these days, because most of the groups do have a local Facebook page. Obviously, you need to enjoy helping people and be empathetic and a good listener, and have reasonable knowledge or life experience of TS, and just know your way around the website is pretty important too, because then you can point people in the right direction for information that they want. So if you are interested, please talk to me today or to Lydia, and you can always email me if you think later on that that's something you'd like to do at supportgroups@tourettes.org.au, and I have a lot of resources that I can provide to help you start a group and build on it and make it larger. So I think the last thing I'd like to say is that it's so satisfying to volunteer. You meet new people, as we all know. People with TS are quirky, they're interesting, and I think it'll make your family's TS experience a lot more positive one. Yeah. So also, I think as Robin mentioned, of course, we have our social day tomorrow, and the venue's been changed to the gym. If you haven't registered online, again, please come and see me. It should be a lot of fun. There's a trainer there to make sure that everybody's safe on the equipment, and it's free to everybody who's here, and we will be doing a pizza lunch, so we would love to see you. It's a much more informal, relaxed day or morning where you can just sit, meet, chat. You get bombarded with information today, and some of it will go in and out, and then you think, oh, well, what was that? Or you may have more questions, and it's just a really good way to meet people. So thank you.
Thanks, Annie. Has anyone got any questions for Annie just before she heads off?
Yes, Kayla. I don't think it's a question, but it's more, I'm not sure if I was listening because I often go trying to thought, but if I was to join Lydia with the camp thing, because I'm more than happy to join that kind of thing, who do I speak to, Lydia, or do I speak to both of you? Or?
In the breaks, come and talk to me, and Lydia will work out how we can.
Fantastic. That was Kayla just saying she'd like to work with us to get the camp up and running. How amazing would that be for Perth? That would be brilliant. Thank you. Fantastic. Thanks, Annie. And in support of Annie, she does an incredible job. And when she says she has resources to help support groups, she really does. She's put together whole kits and made it, so much better organised than it used to be. And I used to go to my first support group I went to, Annie was in, and it made an enormous difference. At that time, my son was very young. He was diagnosed at 4. I was meeting families that had 12-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 35-year-old children. And so all my fears of the future were put in perspective because they were all different cases. And I learnt that Tourette's was a journey that was taking me. I was along for the ride. I couldn't control it. I had to let go and go with it. And I also learnt that whilst a lot of what we hear is, the worst scenarios are usually around adolescent stage and things like that, that wasn't necessarily the case for every child that I met through the support groups. I was very fearful if my child was like this at 4, what are they going to be like at 12? And it didn't necessarily mean that, because they're also individuals, so it was an enormous help for me. And that word empowerment really struck me when you used it, because we're all really busy, we have hectic lives, and I would find it really easy to say, I don't have time to go. But I made myself go for my child, because he would get to meet other people as well, and my daughter as well, who was diagnosed at 4. And I always remember driving home after having been to a support group meeting, feeling empowered, and that was exactly the word I used, that I was stronger to face the world for having been there. So it's really powerful. Thank you.